r/out of the loop. Valerian Bone says, what's the deal with the new Joker sequel movie betraying its audience? Reviews say that it somehow seems to hate its audience. Can someone explain what concretely happens that shows contempt for the viewers? I would like to declare this thread a spoiler zone, so that it's okay to disclose and discuss story beats. So only for people who have already watched it, or are not planning to see it. I'm not planning to see it myself, I'm just curious what's meant by that from a storytelling perspective. Source: Good Old Marshmallow says. Answer: the first movie generated a great deal of controversy and discourse. Partially as part of lingering fear due to a mass shooting that occurred at the release of The Dark Knight Rises. There were police presence at theaters when Joker released. There was a lot of media written about what the Joker means as a symbol to a particular type of alienated and angry young, mostly white, mostly men. This controversy gave the movie a lot of attention and played into its success. Fitting for this controversy, the movie was highly stylized and based on 1970s movies like King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. The latter also inspired a famous shooting of President Ronald Reagan by a mentally unwell man whose insanity defense would lead to a backlash, weakening the insanity defense legally thereafter. The movie was very commercially and critically successful. The sequel takes a massive shift, starting with that highly stylized nature. The movie is styled as a jukebox musical, which could not be more different than the first film's 70s grit. This adds a stylistic element to what everyone is talking about, which is the Joker sequel seems like a long angry response to the way the audience embraced the first film. To start, the premise of the new film revolves around the Joker's trial, which means much of it involves examining the first movie. Second, the premise of the trial is the Joker's insanity defense, which is the first of many meta elements as it shows an example of the fallout of the kind of Taxi Driver public acts of violence. Lastly, because the way the insanity defense is structured, it becomes an examination of the Joker personality and persona. How people admire it, the harm it does, and what it means for Arthur. It becomes a very meta Fight Club style examination of toxic violent personas put on by angry people and the way they admire mass violence. The third act centering around Arthur's ultimate rejection of the Joker's persona as only being harmful to himself and others, but those inspired by him being unable to let it go and continuing on acts of harm. Among other scenes, we literally have Arthur running from Joker fans in makeup. It can be described as anti-fan service. This is making no commentary on its quality for better or worse. Only that the director had a clear intention on what he wanted to say, and many critics are drawing away that he wanted to say something very clear about the audience that loved the first movie. Kajusha says, yeah, the director pretty much came out and said he did not like many of the people who were fans of the original, so this was kind of a swipe at them. It had the same problem Rick and Morty did. It presented a character who is objectively bad. The Joker and Rick in my examples shows them doing horrible things and all but explicitly frames them as the villain. Then a bunch of the worst people you know started acting like said villain was there, freaking spirit animal, and pretending that not only were they not evil, they were actually the best, most coolest, most smartest, most sex-havinest people on the planet. If you sympathized with Fleck early in the first movie, that's fine. He's sympathetic right up until he starts murdering people. If you felt a deep relatable kinship with the Joker, you should probably do some navel gazing. The director picked up on that, so in some ways, making the sequel so goofily antithetical to the original was his way of cutting those people down to size. Those people see Joker as some kind of anti-hero, mass movement Christ figure who was getting back at the system that treated him unjustly. The second movie reveals he's just a psychopathic loser with a terminal case of main character syndrome. r/out of the loop. Katswangbu says, what's the deal with Spotify HiFi? Why isn't it a thing yet? It was first announced years ago, I think 2021. Then, obviously, it never happened. Just wondering why. I think there are basically news about it happening soon almost every month earlier this year. Although, I last heard of it on July when they said the seer talked about a deluxe tier that will apparently have it, but now everything's silent again. What's the deal? Is it really still happening? Or has Spotify just forgotten about it? Autistic Cool Kid says. Answer: I don't have a conclusive answer because no one does except the executives at Spotify, but it is my belief they keep hinting at HiFi to boost their stock valuation, but don't actually plan to implement it. HiFi comes with significant costs for them in terms of streaming bandwidth, and I think they are realizing they are making more money with cheaper plans sold to more people, rather than implementing an expensive tier for HiFi enthusiasts. Even one says. Normal steaming is 128-160 kbps AAC, which is okay for around 90% of people. It's like paying extra for video in 8K when you own a 1080p TV. It raises steaming costs, and usually the cost is passed on to the customer. Except for Apple, all the services that have higher is between 20% and 100% more expensive for the HiFi plan. It was also found with Tidal that many high-res recordings in master quality were basically upscaled versions and not actually higher quality. It's basically investing in more costs and raising your prices for a service only a small fragment of your users will use. Tom B says. Answer: really doesn't make sense from a business stance. Streaming HiFi audio would require a significant investment, more storage and bandwidth. The vast majority of people do not use equipment good enough to make use of better quality audio streams. But a lot of people will still enable this if it is included in their subscription because why not? I'm paying for it anyway. So Spotify would need to create a new subscription tier for this to make sense. The potential income from this new tier would not be enough to recover the investments, let alone turn an extra profit. Tidal already serves the HiFi market and isn't a great success. The alternative would be to increase the prices for the regular subscriptions, which will cost them customers. r/OutOfTheLoop. Health Crusade says. What's up with Jay-Z? Why is there a lot of talk of him about to be cancelleda, kind of like the next Diddy? For context, I'm getting all kinds of videos like this in my YouTube feed, where Jay-Z's former associates are implying that he was never a good businessman, and that things are about to go very badly for him. DK is okay says. Answer: as of right now, the only answer is that in the wake of Diddy's arrest, views can be generated by feeding into the paranoia of who his indictment will implicate. Until something drastic happens, it's all just heresy. Bedo Firth says. Hearsay. Heresy is something that opposes religious doctrine. DK is okay says. I stand by heresy. It's the God MC, me Jehovah. Backhead Bombshell says. Answer: I suspect Jay-Z is one of the celebrities who was fully aware of what was going on with Diddy, possibly also participated. For context, he met Beyonce when she was 16 and he was 30. He effectively groomed her in an industry where that's been considered normal for a very long time. Milda Century says. Aliyah. Zakiel7 says. Wasn't also friends with R. Kelly? Porcelain Cat Statue says. Answer: in the wake of Diddy's downfall, people are looking into other celebrities who have been rumored to be involved in his activities or equally shady, criminal acts. A lot of people have thought Jay-Z was sus for years, but it's always been very taboo to talk about because it would implicate Beyonce, who apparently has a very cult-like fan base. Other celebs do too. I've always heard of the Beehive, but I've never really seen them out, like you see Swifties everywhere. Frankly, there was a lot of refusal to accept or tolerate criticism of two very famous and powerful black celebrities. A lot of times, when I saw people raising an eyebrow at them, they were slammed for being racist. But that's a whole separate convo. Basically, it's now become socially acceptable to talk about something being off with them. Imo, a lot of people are about to go down or be done away with because of the Diddy situation. r/OutOfTheLoop. LSSBRD says, can someone please explain what is going on with the Disney lawsuit? Can someone explain this to me really quick? Man and his wife go to Disney. Wife has a severe allergy. They go to a restaurant that is on the Disney property. Disney is the landlord, from what I gathered, and not affiliated with the restaurant. The couple informs the waiter of the severe allergy multiple times. Waitress reassures them. Wife unfortunately passes due to a severe allergic reaction. That's the gist, but I have one question that hasn't been answered, and I can't find the answer since it's being buried by the Disney Plus thing. Is the husband only suing Disney? Or is he suing Disney as a liable party due to the restaurant on Disney's property, but primarily suing the restaurant for negligence? Cosmocommando says, answer, one of the angles the plaintiff is using to go after Disney is that Disney is landlord to third-party companies that operate stores and restaurants on its property, but will also promote those restaurants on its website, and people can book reservations at non-Disney restaurants on the Disney website. In practice, the difference between a Disney-owned restaurant on property and a third-party one is pretty invisible. They're also suing the company that actually owns the restaurant. The proper procedure in the US is to name everyone that might be involved at the beginning, and then sort out who is responsible for what. ESC8 Patrotist says, I think an important caveat is that Disney is trying to use the fact that the wife did the free trial of Disney Plus and therefore agreed to binding arbitration, and on that basis saying the dude can't sue. Cosmocommando says, it's the reason why this became a national news story, but it wasn't really relevant to Op's specific question, so I left it out. Rubichan228 says, answer, oh, hey, something I know about. It's pretty simple. 1. Disney owns some land and a third-party restaurant opens on that land. 2. The restaurant has an online, and presumably physical, menu that asserts that it can accommodate food allergies. 3. The Disney Parks and Resorts website host a copy of the menu, including its assertion of allergy safety. 4. The husband once signed up for Disney Plus. This involves making a Disney account that will be used across all Disney websites. It also involves agreeing to waive your right to sue the Disney website and go to binding arbitration instead. 5. The couple later used that same account to purchase, but ultimately not use, Epcot tickets from the Disney Parks and Resorts website. This requires again agreeing to waive their right to sue the website. 6. The couple go to eat at the restaurant. They tell them about the wife's allergy and the restaurant claim they can accommodate it. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.